You want me to start?
Yeah, bismillah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Subhanallah, first of all, thank you for having me here. Well, for the past 20, 25 years, since I came back from Lebanon, just found myself going into da'wah. I didn't ask for it, just found myself going in, and I actually tried to push myself away from the public eye for a very long time. Even till now, I'm not very comfortable with the public eye, to be honest, even though we're out there, alhamdulillah. I've been wherever I go, akhi, wherever I go, university, people's houses, wherever I go, inshallah, there's always din pops up for some reason around my life. And in the beginning, we had some brothers who didn't know much about Islam. They used to come and visit us, see us at the mosque, and we'd sit down and talk, and a topic of din comes up, and from there it leads you to another gathering, then to another gathering, and someone would invite you here and someone would invite you there, and then people start passing the information on until I found myself giving public speeches everywhere.
Well, so this is, would you describe this as like the infancy of the Muslim community in Melbourne?
Definitely. We came back here. So from about 1996, I was about close to 20 years old when I was involved in...
So do the maths, yeah?
Yeah, do the maths. Subhanallah.
And this was at Preston Mosque, yeah?
That was at Preston Mosque. You're taking me back now to those years. Let me just refresh my mind. Bismillah. So we had a community that was quite close to each other. There was a greater bond. And even before that, I heard that there was even a greater bond. So in the 70s, the 80s, when, I don't know, the youngsters don't know him, but his name is Sheikh Fahmi, rahmatullah alayh. He used to be the main man who, along with many of the youngsters' grandfathers who were together, a lot of them passed away. And Preston Mosque was a little house, and then there were like Turkish, Lebanese, Palestinian, Albanian, all the different nationalities in one place. And then everybody dispersed, and then you got the different mosques from different nationalities. I came in when Preston Mosque was, like you can say, it's like the Mecca of Melbourne. And it was the central place. We had a few brothers there that wanted to make an Islamic organization. Before that, we had a few youth organizations that were called YMA. Remember YMA?
Yeah, they're still around.
They're still around, yeah. But they were a bit stronger that time.
Yeah. And
then we had Brother Abu Hamza there who wanted to make an Islamic center, and we started helping him. We had a few brothers from university, many names. And we started the youth center, gave it a name, and I was always sort of helping in the background, not being part of specific organizations. The only organizations I became part of as part of the committee member is the Islamic Society of Victoria, Preston Mosque. And that's when I started to really learn about our community from the inside and the outside. If you want me to start from there, that's where the journey began, and I learned so much about what our community needs, where we're successful, where we're thriving, and where we're lacking and need a lot of help in, even among religious people. I just felt that got some things right and a lot of things wrong as well.
I really want to focus on that because, I know, alhamdulillah, we still have Sheikh Belal with us, but, Allah yarhamu, Sheikh Fahmi, he would have gone through so much experience, and I always find it really really rewarding. I mean, listening to my dad or listening to my elders and hearing their experiences and extracting that wisdom and knowledge that disappears when they're gone. And people come into the community trying to reinvent the wheel over again, do the same thing, and replicate things. But people have been there, done that, or experienced it at least. In hindsight, there's a lot to learn, and I think a lot of our, I think there's still some similarities from those times that still exist.
I'm going to tell you the fine line between all of that. Sheikh Fahmi, I was by his side at the Preston Mosque for a long time. People thought he was my dad. I've actually got his picture on the Facebook page. My main, the public Facebook page is one. I don't know. There's one that's private, is or personal, and then there's one that's. Anyway, one of them I have that old man with the turban sits next to me. That's Sheikh Fahmi. For those of you who want to go to my Facebook, that's who he is. I wanted to have him there because He did so much for our community, and I'm telling you why he was successful. It's not because he was the most knowledgeable person. Actually, there were many scholars much more knowledgeable than him. He wasn't what we call a alim in the sense of, wow, you know, that deep. But I'll tell you what he did. He knew what the community wanted and focused on the knowledge that they need. And then avoided, subhanAllah, something I learned from is that he avoided differences between people. Anything that caused a controversy or made people separate apart, he avoided it completely and focused on what the community really needs. Practical things that people can apply straight away. One of the first things he did, for example, with other groups of our elders, you didn't need much knowledge for that. Just the basics of Islam is enough that we need to thrive and move forward as a community, subhanAllah. One of the things is established a graveyard, a cemetery for the Muslims alone. Before, they used to bury them in bags with the non-Muslim in non-Muslim cemeteries, and we weren't allowed to wash them and shroud them the way that we do. We didn't even pray janazah on them. It was all done secretly. People don't know how this went on for years. And then he was able to, you know, go around with the Muslims and say, hey guys, listen, this is important for us. How we get buried. Started to lobby it, speak, get to know the people in the council, people in the government. You need people of authority to connect with them. You can't just isolate yourself. You have to connect. You have to smile with them. You have to have even iftar dinners with them, to believe it or not, just so that we can get to what the community needs. This is how it is. Got the funerals right. Then you got the marriage thing right for us. We're able to get married Islamically.
Can I just ask what time was that?
That was in the early 80s.
But that's not far away.
No,
It's not far away at all.
early 80s. Yeah, we started doing that. And we had the marriage celebrant thing where you have religious celebrants. Like, for example, I'm a marriage celebrant. I took it off, learned it off Sheikh Fahmi actually. And he endorsed me saying, go ahead to do religious. The government actually says, okay, you do it your way and we'll acknowledge it. We'll just endorse it. If you don't have Muslims who interact, intermingle a little bit, meet people, you know, non-Muslims, because that's where we're living, then you're not going to be able to move the Muslims forward. Then there was another group of people we used to interact with from the Muslims. SubhanAllah, they just want to isolate themselves from everything and anything and focus on the differences of opinion that the scholars used to have, traditional scholars, you know, hundreds of years ago. I mean, this is not the time nor the place.
Can I just ask you a question? It seems like you had a good connection with the Sheikh and you learned a lot from him. Was it because of your own personal desire, being close to him, or?
Wallahi, Sheikh, I can't answer that question. I don't know how. Everything, remember how I started off? Coming back, I studied in Lebanon, studied Sharia in Lebanon, had this whole dynamic in Lebanon, very different to Australia. You come back here and I don't know where to go. But everywhere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just put me here, put me there, brought these people here, brought this Sheikh next to me. I ended up in the mosque. I don't know how. I didn't really plan it.
I feel like there's a lot of young people that they want to learn, they want to take that good path, but then sometimes it just doesn't work out for them. And I see that you had a good relationship and connection with the Sheikh.
The only thing I can share with the young people is this. I didn't have to try hard. And I didn't have to look for a group that I have to be part of. Young people, they want to be part of a group. I just let things flow. What I did was I prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I learned this from my father. My father says, I was lost before, he says, and then this brother, he told me this dua that I can say at night, and I used to hear these things from my dad. I just took them on board. Started saying, Ya Allah, guide me to the right path. I don't want to be on the wrong path. And then I had a passion, a personal passion for the deen. That's all. But I like to mix. I don't try to choose. I didn't try to choose this group, that person, this person. And anybody who told me don't be with this person, don't be with that person, I didn't really take it on board. I'd respect them and say, okay, yeah, no worries. But I go and like to talk to them. I want to see why. You know, they're all Muslims. When you mix a lot, but you don't just accept things without investigating or reject things without investigating.
Right.
All right. And you always have people to ask. You go back to ask people of knowledge, people you trust. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you, akhi. Allah guides you. You don't have to try too hard. My advice to the young people is stick to the mosques. You know, this is where I start. The first place you go is to mosque. I even tell university students, as soon as you go on your first day at university, find the prayer room. This is called the jama'ah. Stick to the jama'ah. Wherever the Muslim community is, go there and mix with them. Don't isolate yourself. And watch the doors open, subhanAllah. Watch the doors open and be sincere about it. Be sincere about it. I've seen young people who are successful and young people who lost their way They either became too much until they exhausted themselves and now they went back to their old ways. Some of them just isolated themselves, didn't even give themselves the chance. And some of them came in with sincere hearts, and stuck around the masjid and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides them to meet this person and that person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides these young people like that. Just you have that passion, have that sincerity. And Islam is simple. You don't have to go and no one's asking you to become this great scholar and you have to find a specific group and a specific place to enter paradise. Yani, don't know, I just saw the passion, sincerity, openness, open-mindedness. Just accept everything everyone says to me. Meet this person, meet that one. I remember one brother come to the mosque and he said to me, he was with the Tabligh Jama'ah. And he said to me, should I go with them? Should I go? And I said, go, ya akhi. But one thing, just, listen, but you don't have to accept everything everyone says, nor reject everything everyone says. Meet other people as well. Go wherever you like. Don't make it a group thing. Yeah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the door for him to have, at least we have an open relationship with each other.
Did he change his life?
Yes, of course. What happened is that it creates, you feel you're part of a community when you don't isolate yourself and stick to one group. You have a relationship with everybody. And what happens is that everyone starts to get to listen to everyone else and see the different points of views and learn that, hold on a minute, there are fundamentals in Islam and there are branches of Islam. And the branches, we can differ on them and still be brothers and sisters in Islam and still move forward. As for the fundamentals, it's very hard to find people differing on fundamentals. Actually, if you do find them, it's very clear. Yeah. Everybody can notice it.
I know this.
This brother thought, hold on a minute, it's not that difficult. It's like some people, some youth, if they stick to one place or one group or one person, what happens to them is they think everything about the religion is fundamental. Even the things that you're allowed to have difference of views on them, and they become exhausted. And then they just give up.
Yeah, it's that burnout that after, you put in your effort in the community and, you try and be that unifying thing or force or person, and you do get exhausted.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? Because I think one thing that you did mention that sort of struck out just then is that the fact that you didn't necessarily try to engineer anything, right? Yeah, you had a sincere heart. You entered the right arena, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took you places.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's this overarching mentality now that I need to come and I need to transform the community. I need to come in and I want to do this and build out and do this, and it's like, and then you had realistically when you look back 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it's like, okay, what have you actually done except talk about and that grassroots work on the ground is like, you can't compare that.
Let me share with you one thing. Maybe that'll make it even clearer and more practical. So the word is practical. Be on the ground. What's happening right now in the community? Try to understand what kind of mentality we have, mindset in your community. One thing I did in Lebanon, I went to Lebanon, and it's a totally different mindset there, totally different culture. When coming back to Australia, I realized that a lot of the stuff I learned there, I can't talk about all of it here. It doesn't all work because the mentality and the mindset is a bit different. So I allowed myself to interact with all our brothers and sisters, so long as they're called Muslim and Sunni. Even with Shia, I had friends, and we used to talk, but I didn't just accept everything they said. I'd have to investigate. This is the thing. And I always had this mentality of, it's always better for me to follow the minimum of the religion that I'm very sure about than a lot of it when it's mixed up. Going to uni, I went to La Trobe first year, and the first place I went to was the prayer room. Now, there are all sorts of Muslims there.
Yeah.
And I did not stop myself from being friends with any of them. We had all the different people who are following particular parties and particular groups and particular mindsets. I really enjoyed the discussion. We used to talk, and sometimes it gets heated. But this is the thing. As soon as that ends, you will see no difference in the relationship we had. We're brothers. We're brothers in Islam. We still love each other. We are loyal to each other. And none of those differences ever split us apart. You got to have a bit of an open mindset.
On that point, I think that maybe Sheikh Batu can elaborate on that. Now, there's some good stories of or points, the differences between Abu Bakr and Omar, for example, right? Like literally almost polar opposites, to the point of, the example of, either killing the captives or keeping them alive.
Yep.
That's Sheikh, could you maybe recount that story in a little bit more depth if you can?
Yeah, I remember the time of Badr regarding the captives, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, that was the first battle and the first time these captives. So how do you deal with them? And Umar radiallahu anhu had his strong opinion, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu had his opinion, and I believe Abdullah ibn Rawaha also had his opinion too. And subhanallah, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the opinion of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and that was to Sheikh can correct me, that to take them as ransom, and that could benefit Islam, could strengthen Islam. And Umar radiallahu anhu said every family member should take their family member from the captives and execute them. So at that stage, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the opinion of Abu Bakr, and then the Quran was revealed in Surah Al-Anfal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses regarding that. But it's just I was amazed how many different incidents Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu had difference. But then at the end, still that connection was there. I just going off track, but I remember years ago also when I was trying to find my journey and what to do. I started going to the masjid, and I really just wanted khair. I had a passion, as Sheikh said, young, and alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was guiding me. And then certain people kept coming up to me and just telling me that this is wrong and this is right. And they're telling me, intricate issues of Islam that I didn't even know what they're talking about. And I started to get confused. What do I do? How do I deal with this? And one thing I used to just go to the Sheikh in the masjid and just tell me, no, don't worry about this. Just deal with it. Don't worry about this. And I know I'm going off track, but it's just wildly.
No, that's entirely relevant.
That's very relevant.
Yeah, exactly. So it's my own, and I used to go back at night, make dua, Allah guide me. What are they saying? Is it right? Is it wrong? It was just total confusion. But then I just kept looking for the truth. I didn't take exactly what they said, and then subhanallah, by time Allah blessed me with the opportunity of studying, and then I realized, Sheikh said, the fundamentals and things which are tertiary, subsidiary, like the branches. But coming back to like the question, Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu, they had so much love and mutual respect for each other, and I think that's really important for us as Muslims, as a community, working with each other. Subhanallah, Sheikh.
That's exactly what we're talking about. But Abu Bakr and Umar, all the Sahabas, they even differed on how many things they differed on, yet the spirit of their brotherhood stayed together. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did say that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Umar, they differed so much that he said to them, listen, if you ever agree on something, then don't even ask me. It must be right. But what you got to understand, that what they differed on was not the fundamentals of the deen.
Yes.
It's something. Okay, let's just go through that. Probably 2 minutes on it. It's very important for young people to know. What are we talking about when we're saying fundamentals? And in lame terms, the not as important things, that Islam gives some room for differences of opinion among the scholars. The fundamentals are things that the majority of Muslims already know. Okay, it doesn't take much to learn them. So, for example, the Quran talks about alcohol being forbidden. Gambling is forbidden. You don't need a scholar to tell you that. These are fundamentals. There are 5 daily prayers. There are fundamentals of knowledge, what you're supposed to believe in, and fundamentals of actions. Knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. Does anybody differ on that? There is only one God worthy of worship. Not a single Muslim in the world differs on that. And then there's the actions. Everybody believes in the 5 pillars. We have to pray our 5 daily prayers, fasting our month of Ramadan, going to Hajj. Does everybody differ on that? These are Muslims who are already, alhamdulillah, on the right group. And then you have the branches of them, the little. So, for example, wallah, you have the 4 different schools of thought. One says You can wipe over the leather socks. The other one says over fabric socks, for example. One has a different opinion on marriage. You need a wali in every situation. The other school of thought says no. There are, if certain conditions are met, you don't really need a wali. The point is, these are furu', the branches of where Islam allows some difference of opinion. We don't turn them into fundamentals. What happens from that when we turn things like this into fundamentals? This is where separation happens. People won't pray in certain mosques. People won't pray behind certain imams. This obsessive enthusiasm, uncritical sort of following of either a party or a school of thought zealously is something that the scholars never did. Subhanallah. And I think that you mentioned something, Sheikh Bahdoun. You said that when you go and you find people telling you, no, stick with us, don't follow that person, we're right, and they're wrong, and you've got to be careful of this. You think like the world's over. There's no more Muslims on earth. Everybody is wrong, and you have to be part of 10 or 15 or 20 people who are the saved sect that are going to Jannah and nothing else.
To tell you the truth, at that time it's difficult.
I know it's difficult, but what we learned, I went through the same, wallahi akhi. And what we learned from this is this. From now on, me, I can go back. If anybody comes to me, no matter how knowledgeable they are, and uses that mentality, that kind of attitude, I've just come in new, and you've got to be careful of this group, you've got to be careful of the gate group. They're not part of it. And these are the sheikhs you've got to follow. These are the books that we follow. Anything outside of it, don't do. I know something's wrong there. Something's wrong there. Subhanallah. I'm not happy with that. And you mentioned, Akhi Abdullah, about my journey through across the mosque and the community. This is what I went through. So brothers, sisters, they come together, and it became more like a gang sort of thing, more like a group. This is our group. Tell you something in common. I realized, wallahu, this is my opinion, it's what I saw from experience. If someone had a gang mentality before becoming religious, or an attitude of stubbornness and my way or the highway before becoming religious, that type of approach, and then they become religious, that mentality comes with it. Even I saw some students back in Lebanon doing Sharia. You can tell they already have a rough, tough personality beforehand. They have a gang mentality, and they learn the Sharia only to serve that mentality. Go out and then, come around me. I'm your sheikh and no one else. It becomes like that. It's the personality that comes in with it. That's why Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that in the hadith sahih, that the best among you in the deen now are the ones who were the best before in Jahiliyyah. The ones who had the best character before have the best now, because they bring in that character with them, that good character with the deen, and the deen serves that character as well. Allah, just in a nutshell, I thought we have bigger problems in the world and in Australia for the Muslim community that we need to focus on more than anything else.
Do you feel that over the last few decades, that has transformed or moved in a positive direction, or has it got worse?
Both ways. We've seen an improvement in a larger group, and we've seen the other side, the zealous approach, still happening, but in a larger group too. So all of them still happening, except that they've just gone bigger. Okay. I haven't seen a total shift from one end to the other. It's just that those who are going this way, either they got older and they're not talking anymore, they're not really part of the community, but then you have the younger ones who've come up, and now I know some groups of Muslims who don't pray in any mosque whatsoever because they believe no one's prayer is accepted. No. And then you got the other extreme where they say pray behind everyone, even if he's an open, that very clear that this person is
the other end of the spectrum.
All right. Yeah. And then you have the ones in the middle, inshallah. We're after the ones in the middle. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made our religion wasatan, in the middle. And the hadith, Sheikh, about the shaitan, inna shaitana ya'isa min an yu'bad. Yeah, the shaitan has given up hope of people praying to the shaitan or worshipping the shaitan while they're in their salat, but he hasn't given up on the Muslims fighting each other, quarreling with each other, disuniting with each other. He's happy with that. This hadith which is Sahih Muslim. So he gave up on anyone making shirk, for example. The majority of Muslims do not make shirk. The majority of Muslims have tawheed. The majority of Muslims, anywhere you go, you enter a masjid, They're praying in one direction. They're praying to one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of their differences of opinion here and there. But what the shaitan got us with is this. Yalla, have fitna between each other. Even in the religion. As shaitan said, لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ, I will sit awaiting for them on your straight path. So I'm going to get this person with that attitude, make him think that with his religion he can make fitna between the Muslims. But alhamdulillah, Akhi Abdullah, there is a larger group that's more understanding at the moment. More understanding, being a bit more open-minded. You can see it, mashallah. There's more knowledge. There's more in-depth knowledge. But look, Al-Harith radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, give me an advice, give me something that I can hold on to, a'tasim bihi, I can hold on to, that will take me to paradise. And he grabbed his tongue, his own tongue. He said, take control of this, the tongue. What's our biggest problem these days? We love to talk. Talk. I want to express my opinion about everything and anything. Qualified, not qualified, I don't care. Not thinking, especially on social media. People are very quick to write things.
Keyboard warriors.
Keyboard warriors, or even people who are quite sincere. They're just not careful. And these things stay there and they think it doesn't really matter. When you see them face to face, they don't talk much. Why are you typing it there? People are reading it, they're getting influenced by it. Imam Shafi'i says, everything that your hand has written or your mouth has spoken stays, while everything else fades. So be careful what your hands have written, or other people later on will take it and move with it, and you will be judged for it, either in a good way or a bad way. Right? Just be careful not to just blurt out things.
Some of this stuff is, we've mentioned how...
I'm being negative, aren't I?
No, we're being real, huh? Some of this stuff, there's, let's say, people have difficulty navigating differences. But would you say that the fitna or that exists or whatever that or used to exist was it just that, or there was more to it? I mean, there's
in Australia,
agendas, egos, people.
Yeah, so that's what we're coming to.
Yeah.
So yes, most of them. Remember, I was saying, are coming out of the attitude.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So a lot of them, you can find that there's an ego behind it. And that's the nature of human beings. I want to be heard. I want to have a voice. People around me, I'm right, they're wrong. But this exhausts the youth. And I found a lot of the youth used to get put off of it. They say, man, I just want to be peaceful with my Muslim community. My advice, actually, that I finally rested on in the end, there are fundamentals in the deen which the majority of Muslims don't differ on. Do your best in that. And then see what our Muslim community really needs and be part of that moving forward with them. Something as simple as I gave the example of Sheikh Fahmy, looking at the funerals, looking at the marriages. Nobody differs on the Muslims wanting an Islamic marriage. Nobody differs on burying Muslims in an Islamic way. And I avoided talking about differences, to be honest. In Lebanon, I used to talk about differences so much, but we stayed brothers. You cannot imagine how many groups I went with in Lebanon. And we still managed to stay brothers, like real brothers. When I came back to Australia, I didn't see any room to talk about differences. It was just, we're all here, we're all Muslim. Sunni is the furthest I would go. And living in Australia, we're what, 2%? Not even 2%. We barely got our head out of the water. We're barely breathing. And we've got so much lacking in our community. We need to come together on common grounds. We don't have time to talk about differences. His sock didn't wipe the sock, join the prayer, don't join the prayer, difference of opinion about travel. How many days do I pray this long? No, that means you're on another group. No, I won't pray behind you because you wiped over your sock. I only pray behind people who wipe over their leather sock. If I walk in front of you in prayer just to prove a point about some opinion or something like that, this separates the community. Honestly, I avoided the differences of opinion with the common people.
This is not to trivialize differences that legitimately exist, and it's the mentality that exploits that for the sake of, other things, negativity, and
so very good point, Abdullah. That when I come in and exploit the differences for an agenda of my own.
Yeah.
You know, a discrete party that I follow, or a zealous approach to a school of thought I follow. And I use the differences of opinion to create a group, to create an isolated group from the rest. This is tafriq, this is separating the jama'ah, separating. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu used to say in his khutbah, alaykum bil jama'ah, you must stick to the general community, stay with them, and be aware of separation, for the shaitan can take control of one person, but when there are two people together, the shaitan moves away further. So we need to find a way where these differences they're not supposed to separate us, they're supposed to unite us. You know, we have in our deen, alhamdulillah, all the scholars of the past who differed on any of these opinions, such as, for example, the 4 schools of thought, still loved each other. Imam Shafi'i visited Kufa when Imam Abu Hanifa had passed away, and his grave was there near the masjid. That's where he used to give his classes. And Imam Shafi'i believed in raising his hands when he stood up from ruku', for example. In the Hanafi madhab, you don't do that. And they saw Imam Shafi'i not raising his hands in the way that he used to give fatwa in, you know, back home, but he was in Kufa. And I asked him, why did you not go with the opinion that you follow? And he said, out of respect for the owner of this grave, this is his place, this Kufa. Do you see how these small differences of opinion did not create a grouping, or my way or the highway? You can compromise a bit for the sake of the brotherhood, all right, for the sake of the fundamentals. And very quick example about the Sahabas at the time of Bani Qurayza. You know that story, Bani Qurayza? When the Sahabas were going there, and the Prophet ﷺ said, we'll only pray Asr at Bani Qurayza. And on their way, they didn't know what it meant. A group said, Asr is about to go, so we better pray before the time goes, because the Quran says pray on its time. And another group said no, but the Prophet ﷺ has exceptionalized that. There's an exception. He literally said pray it there, so we're going to just obey the Prophet ﷺ because it's an exception. He won't go against the Quran. A group prayed before, and a group prayed after Maghrib had come in. When they approached the Prophet ﷺ and said, well, who's right, who's wrong? The Prophet ﷺ knew which is right and which is wrong. He wouldn't tell them something that's conflicting. But what did he say to them? He avoided completely those differences. They tried their best sincerely. They tried to look at the dalil and the evidence within their capacity. Within the capacity they knew. The Prophet ﷺ said, you are both on good. Kullukum ala khair. You're both on good, inshallah. He didn't want them to separate because of something like that, or to create into an egotistic thing.
Now, I think with the Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that, and tie it back into the title, and the title is, it's sort of, mashallah, the poster is a bit, it stands out to you a little bit in the sense that, you know, why does this matter, and why do we matter in this conversation? And you know, I thought to myself, well, one reason could be is that often we inherit the baggage of others, and the next generation, I mean, not in the sense that every generation is a start afresh, but you just carry that mentality, or the negative mentality, and then just move it on and pass it on and pass it on, and rather than think of it a bit more critically. Do you feel that sort of happens a little bit?
Yes, of course. That's the problem. We carry on things from the other generation. That's what truly happens. But look, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden people with acts of worship or religion more than what they can bear. And Allah knows the hearts and the sincerity. You don't need to be knowledgeable to know sincere from insincere. You can feel when you're just want your voice to be heard and your opinion to go. You don't need to be knowledgeable about that. You don't need to inherit that. You already know that, because you get angry. If I get angry when you oppose me, it means that, okay, there's a problem in my approach too. So I've got to mellow down a little bit and go to the fundamentals of the deen, and that is, listen, be sincere. Maybe the other person could be right. You're just very, very open your mind. Have a listen. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who did he listen to? He listened to Al-Mughira. You know, Al-Walid ibn Mughira?
Yeah, of course.
The enemy of the Prophet ﷺ, and he sat down in front of the Kaaba telling off the Prophet ﷺ in so long. The Prophet ﷺ was just listening to him until he finished. He says, have you finished? He goes, yeah. And then he recited some Quran to him. So if you don't, these fundamentals, listen and then give your opinion, and you don't have to, you know, that's it, it's my way or the highway. But at the same time, my heart goes out with the young people. And my address really is for people who are leaders, people who are knowledgeable. My brothers and sisters, please take it easy a bit on these youngsters. They're copying us. They're taking us as role models. Take it easy on them. Be a little bit more open-minded. There's no need for us to, gather them in one particular corner, one particular pocket. There can be right or wrong with us. There can be wrong or right with the others. Doesn't matter. Visit that masjid. Go over there. Pray behind that person. Be open-minded, inshallah, but investigate. Always ask. And if you happen to get the wrong way, it doesn't matter. There were even differences of opinion in aqidah, in the belief in God, but among the scholars even, the sahabas. But they never. What happened? It's gone. Let me talk about something a bit more on a positive note.
Yeah, I was going to shift the conversation a little bit there, but I'll let you go first.
Look, why do we matter? Let's get back to the fundamentals. We matter because we matter to Allah. We matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He placed in us that special soul which the angels knew was special. And when He placed it in Adam alayhi salam, He said to the angels, bow to Him. We matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. We have honored the son of Adam. He made us see, He made us hear, He gave us metacognition, able to think how to think, learn how to learn. He gave us the ability to stand up straight. He gave us dominance over all creatures and all animals, to sail in and over the sea. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has truly honored us and made us special. He chose you between all those chemical reactions for you to be born amongst all those billions of other phenomenal little creatures, and you've come out here. So you matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is merciful with you. He wants us to be merciful with each other. He wants us to be forgiving with each other. Give each other a chance. Wallahi, if I can talk to you and you can talk to me with mercy, with rahmah. You know what mercy is? That if you wronged me, I'll give you a chance. I won't punish you for it. I won't come down to you with judgmentality. But rather I will put my hand on your shoulder and say, Akhi Abdullah, Subhanallah, talk to me, man. I'm here to listen. Wallahi, I respect your view. And I acknowledge some of your view and you acknowledge some of my view. We're going to keep listening to each other more and more after that, because there's rahmah. This is what we're based on. We're based on mercy with each other.
Yeah, that principle is easier said than done. But it requires that sincerity and that openness to have that. And the people that do that, credit to them, mashallah. And that's sort of a mentality or a culture that we need to promote much more, because it is one of those things when your ego gets in the way. Hey, it's probably one of the most difficult things to dismantle in the heat of the moment. Now, you mentioned people focusing on sort of theoretical issues and whatnot, right? And you also mentioned how the community needs to focus on other things, right? And those other things potentially are services, infrastructure,
yes,
people, education. They're the few things that come up top of my head, but out of no experience of my own. What are your thoughts on what the community really requires?
Well, what you said, education is one of the first. And we've got a lot of youngsters who have a problem now believing if Allah even exists. Isn't this a fundamental that we can focus on here and sort of address as teachers in our schools, for example, to start bringing up the topics that the youth are struggling with, such as the existence of God, evolution. Let's talk about the topic of relationships that have changed now. You know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about issues of mental health. This is a big one now with our Muslim community. You find people even praying 5 times a day and doing all of that, but still they're saying, I can't feel it. How can we reach out to them and focus on more of a, what's it called, empathetical approach, inshallah. Issues of marriages, having services of counseling more. Doesn't have to be the imams, for example. People doing courses like you, Sheikh. You're doing a course on counseling. have a few more PDs, a bit more qualifications in that, know how to help our Muslim communities on our own, have businesses, focus on building our businesses to employ our Muslim community, because they have religious commitments which sometimes I find very difficult to practice in other places of employment. You know, we hear this all the time. Come together and start building businesses together for financial gain. A lot of youngsters want to get married early, but we're keeping the, you know, it's very hard for them to get married at an early age, or they have to wait until Allahu Alam 30, some of them 40.
Especially in lockdown, huh?
Especially in lockdown, yeah. So, you know what, there is a community, you said you're from the Somali community, Sheikh, huh? Sheikh Belal. What I was very impressed about them, they came here as refugees, the Somalis. And what they did was they look at the whole community and they think, man, we can't rely on this. We're going to have to get together and do our own thing. So they got together and they have this funeral thing where people put in money, for example, in a community box, and that goes to their funeral. Funerals cost like 7-8 grand, and then it's free service for the Muslim. Because when I was at the Preston Mosque, that's what happened. Somalians always had the money, and I'm thinking, where do you get it from? So we have our community. We've established this a long time ago. You know, for marriage, for example, when I have a box, you know, and something like that, each community say, you know what, we're going to have these finances to help people who want to get married, but financially they're doing it hard, such as being or whatever. We can do a lot of that, you know, a lot of that in that area. What you said is basically enhancing that stuff and relying on ourselves, inshallah.
Okay. Can you maybe, Sheikh Batun, explain that Somali initiative on, if you're a little bit more, you understand it a little bit more. How does that work? Is it a collective? I'm actually quite interested when you brought that up.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard of that.
I don't know the fine details of it, but I know the basic concepts where the community leaders, they will make an announcement amongst the families and the tribes. So we have different Somali tribes. So if a person was from this tribe, then the people in that tribe, the immediate family members and the distant family members, they'll help straight away. And then people that are connected to them. But exactly with the funeral, I'm not sure Sheikh will know.
The point that I'm trying, I just gave that as an example. The point I'm trying to make is ta'amul, so interacting, services for each other. Everyone can, for example, pick up a phone and check on another person in the community, see what they need. I had brothers in the lockdown just come out of nowhere. And just at my door, there's food. They sent it to me. Why? I don't know. I wonder how many other people they're sending it to, for example. And they're anonymous, subhanAllah. Focusing on helping each other, services with each other on the fundamental needs, livelihood. Just the stuff that we normally need day to day to enhance that, rather than, complaining and talking and going on social media just to sort of express my opinion and your opinion and getting likes for it. We want to actually go into the empathy, the mercy, the helping, the brotherhood.
There's so much to focus on, whilst there's so many other distractions to sort of take away. Now we wanted to, and this is something that we've been speaking about on this Saturday night session for the last couple of weeks, in fact, because we see it in the community. Alhamdulillah, the community is quite diverse, right? In terms of ethnicities as well as ways of thinking and doing things. So there's always naturally going to be, a little bit of tension at times. But it's this conversation needs to be elevated in the sense that if there's something we shouldn't tolerate, it's that, right? That sort of almost internal Islamophobia where we see other Muslims from inside as sort of enemies, or as not on the haqq, or labeling them in a way where we can just easily dismiss them, right? And of course we wouldn't appreciate that from anyone else, let alone our own people. So the dynamic is sort of there's something to relate, because I do think that does happen in the community, where we try to discredit each other just to get our way forward. I feel though, as part of, I don't know if I'm still considered as part of the youth. I think Sheikh Batun's the youngest person on this panel. But I sort of do feel that that is sort of, or maybe I've just moved away from that culture. But I do feel there is a sort of a positive progression where Muslims are now, or young Muslims mainly identify as just Muslims in Australia, as opposed to ascribing to all these other things.
Yes, Akhi Abdullah. Remember when we're talking about the fundamentals of the deen? Things that are very clear to any Muslim who doesn't have to study too much of the deen. There does come a point where we have to advise and correct. But this is all part of the mercy between us.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, this is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter what we do and what we differ upon. We will always differ. We have to accept that.
Yes,
we can't unify everybody on the idea is to accept the differences. And there are so many things that you can accept the differences on, so long as they are difference of opinion among the scholars, it's okay. However, when the fundamentals are there, no scholar differs upon them.
Yes.
If we start going outside of that area as well, then we have to have a merciful approach to those brothers and sisters, even if we have to be firm and hold discussions of things that may even upset them. But it's not about saying the truth. It's about how we say it. Yani, for example, I might see something about you on social media that happened 4, 5, 6 years ago. And everybody's forgotten about it. Nobody's talking about it.
Don't share that post.
No. And then I come, I want to change the bad, maybe it's you've crossed fundamentals. And then I come along, I search that up, I bring it, I whack it on social media, and then I do a whole post. I'm doing a good thing that I'm showing the right from the wrong, but the community had no idea about that. Now I've just put it out there. You know, it wasn't an issue. So my approach here has made more damage than good.
Yes.
Ibn Taymiyyah saw the Mongols drinking alcohol when they first converted to Islam, and he left them in a Muslim land. They said, why did you leave him, ya Imam? He said, because these people are still new out of barbarism, and they're drinking alcohol. They're better off being drunk at the moment so they don't start chopping off heads. They're still new to it. So I left them. And I saw it's better off like that. That lack of wisdom.
Ibn Taymiyyah really said that.
Yeah, yeah. He said, leave them for now. They were very new to the deen. And my approach with you, I can say the truth. And what's wrong with me saying to you, Brother Abdullah, Wallahi, you are my brother in Islam. And you say, you're my brother too. I say, Akhi, I need to say something. You know when you said such and such a thing? Wallahi, I hate to tell you this, and I'm not here to oppose you. Why not add these few words there? But this is the thing. This is the thing. One brother, he contacted me in private once, long time ago, I put some information out that was wrong or not very wise. He contacted me and took me aside and said, Wallahi, the way you spoke to him was so brotherly, like a father, like an older brother. And I went and took it and corrected myself. Nobody knew who that person was. Nobody had to even know about it. You know, and why not add that human approach with people? And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what is da'wah? What is da'wah? Da'wah is talking, inviting people who don't want it. It's not people who agree with you. And with that, that's what the Prophet ﷺ did. He says, وَإِن كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَمْ فَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you are harsh-hearted, hard in your approach, they will all move away from you. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about tolerating things that go totally against the deen and calling it deen. Some people, they want to monopolize on that. And they change the entire deen from its core. And then it says, oh, you can't judge me, and I'm just saying what I think is my opinion. We say, no, come here. This religion is not yours and mine. This is Allah's religion. You know, out of love for you, I need to correct this, akhi. You know, those few words that we put in, our approach, our friendly approach, our brotherly approach, even while we're firm, can make a huge difference, inshallah. Yani, I'm saying add that little human element to watch how things change.
Well, and that's from the deen, but and mashallah, but it's also just basic decency as well.
Of course.
Right? So,
you don't have to be a scholar and I'm
yeah,
going to Sharia school to learn this.
How do we tackle the identity crisis facing Muslim youth? And how do we define what it means to be an Australian Muslim and be part of the Ummah as a whole as well?
Wallahi, very good question. I'll have to summarize this because there's so much we can ask about it. Yakhi, wallahi, identifying as a Muslim is very easy. It's very, very simple. I'll go back to the originally thoughts that I spoke about here in this podcast. the fundamentals of the deen that no Muslim differs upon are known by all of us. Practice them to the best of your ability. To the best of your ability. Whatever you can't, do what you can of it. And you are part of the Muslim identity, inshallah. Muslim identity is about the ideology, the thought. Muslim identity is not just about the clothing or the outside appearance. It is about your ideology, number one. Get the ideology right, and then practice the fundamentals as much as you can. Inshallah, you're part of the Muslim Ummah. Muslim Ummah is not just, who's here in Melbourne. It's all around the world, When we make dua for our brothers and sisters around the world, anywhere, in any country where they are oppressed and persecuted, we are part of the identity. We are part of the community. When we go to the masjid and we pray our salat in there just to make the rows look bigger and to make the numbers greater, alhamdulillah, we are part of the community. When I call somebody and ask how they are, I am part of the community. This is, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's very simple. He says, be part of the jama'ah, be involved in some way, even if it's very, very small, and your identity, inshallah, is practiced. Wherever you go, don't be shy, don't be embarrassed to ask for your religious rights. Yeah. This is another thing, and don't shy away from it. I went to the Mercy Hospital once and I found, I think he looked like he was a supervisor or some head of the cardiologist section or something, cardiology section or something like that. And he's got his, full on, looks like a Jewish man just hopped out of, we call it Palestine, but out of the occupied area. It looks like a complete. And I think, Tayyib, we shouldn't really shy away from something like that. And speak out if you have it. But if you can't meet it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden you more than what you can bear. You're still, alhamdulillah, part of the Muslim identity, inshallah ta'ala. Even if you ended up being, you can't really put too much into the community, can't really involve yourself in the community, at least do what you can in your private affairs, with your family, with your parents, with your siblings. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, ghafoor, and He's much more generous than what we think.
SubhanAllah, I mean, we really reinforced that, I think, quite a few times. The focus on the fundamentals and how important and profound those fundamentals are, because it's so easy to be like, oh, we know that stuff, right? But really, in practice, it's a totally different thing, right? Now,
I'd just like to add regarding Muslim Australian identity. Something I found beneficial for me is that one hadith that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that al-hikmatu dalatul mu'min, that a word of wisdom is the lost item of a believer. So if somebody gives you a piece of wisdom, something beneficial for you, then it is as if it's yours. So growing up in Australia, I don't find it difficult to say that I'm an Australian Muslim. Another person, for example, from a different nationality, will say that they're Palestinian Muslim or Pakistani Muslim. But then sometimes people find it difficult to say that I'm Australian Muslim. So Australians have a lot of good values. They're very kind to animals. So the good values that they have, it's as if it's a piece of wisdom for us that belongs to us. Because as this hadith, this is one understanding that I took from it, that if somebody brings you your lost item, then it doesn't matter if that person is a Muslim or not a Muslim, it's yours. Somebody knocks on your door and says, I found this, it belongs to you. You're not going to say to them, are you Muslim? You're not Muslim. Are you Australian? You're not Australian. So when we find people who have good values and they don't go against Islam, that's the main point though. So if, for example, the Australian values or the customs that they have here, that they drink alcohol, that goes clearly against Islam. So we can't adopt that. We can't take that. But if they have good values, then we take it. So looking at it that way, from any culture we can find good and we can take it. So as Muslims, and in Australia, Australian Muslims, that the good we find in people, we take it, and the bad we don't. And they'll come back to knowing our Islam, coming back to knowing the fundamentals of Islam, as Sheikh said, the ideology of Islam, knowing how to be a Muslim. So like that, I find no issue of saying that I'm Australian Muslim, and don't even like to say identity crisis, because once
go ahead, Sheikh.
Once we know who we are, we are Muslims. We know what we are about, and then when we find other cultures and customs that are in conformity to Islam, then mashallah we take it as if it's ours. And if it's something which is not, then with respect, if they do it, we respect them with good character and conduct, but it's not acceptable.
Sheikh, I was just going to say, if anything we need to focus on is our attitude. And in Australia, we're not asked to convert the world or change Australia into something, Sharia, or to change it into a whole new Islamic state or anything like that. Allah is not asking us of that. Alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity, as you said, Sheikh, to practice all our religious values and practices. No one is standing in our way. And I see it very close to how the Muslims were in Abyssinia, with the Abyssinian king, Najashi. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, that Christianity is the best or that's what's going to help you. He said he is a just ruler. Just means you give people their rights to practice their values and their obligations, and nobody stops them from doing that. They're free and peaceful to do that. So one thing we need to get rid of is not burden ourselves trying to change everything here. You said this, Akhi Abdullah. Get rid of that so we don't burden ourselves. Number two, you will find that majority of the values of Islam are already in front of us here in Australia. Yani masalan, your neighbor. Reach out to your neighbor and say, hello, how are you? Wallahi, my neighbor her boy had a birthday party. I didn't want to go into the issue, is birthdays haram or not haram? I don't want to give my view on that, but I thought, okay, this is my neighbor. She doesn't know except that birthdays is a good thing for them. It brings people together. So I focused on that with that intention. Went and bought him a little present and gave it. We talk now. We talk the other neighbor across the road. Talk to another neighbor over there, another neighbor over there. Allahu Akbar. I feel my identity is stronger now because they're asking me questions about the deen. And even if I don't ask, they're looking and watching how I'm acting with them. Just practice those values, but expand them. We already have them. Just expand them a little bit and practice them. We already have them, alhamdulillah, the friendship, the neighbor. Expand it. Go off. Give ma'mool on Eid to your neighbors. Just go around to take about 20 minutes and give it across. That has a tremendous effect on them, subhanAllah. Just a little smile, a little hello, checking on them out of the ordinary. You'll be surprised how many Muslims don't do that. Or they're shy or they're embarrassed to do that. Just go ahead, even with whatever you're wearing, inshallah. Allahu alam, ya akhi, I think it's simpler than what we think. Sometimes we make it more complicated than what it is.
I think that is probably the take home of this whole conversation, of this that it is far simpler. But we wanted to tie it into sort of personal experiences, because it's that experience that that on the ground experience that really provides or helps you instill that wisdom and
Shuf Abdullah, I know you want to I'm sorry I cut you off. Talk about personal experience. One thing about Preston Mosque.
Yes.
One time the neighbors at Preston Mosque, and I was back there about talking 15 years ago, they protested against us parking in the streets. Why? Because you know how Muslims park. Yeah. But they went to the council and protested. Okay. We had to face the council. We had to go in. I was myself going in there trying to vouch for the Muslims that this is our rights and whatever. They brought the neighbors to talk. SubhanAllah, this is an Islamic practice. Bring the neighbors so that they can voice their opinion. They had mediators between us and them. They gave us our respect. They gave them their respect. SubhanAllah. There was no fighting. We heard what they had to say. One thing that caught my attention, just to show you how simple it is, that Islam gave us the values, just expand it and use it. The neighbors, very primitive, very simple. Simply they said, I've been living here for 10 years, 15 years. I haven't seen a Muslim knock on my door, just say hello. Yeah. They come past, they don't even look at me. They don't say hello even. Just say hello, Something simple that I felt ashamed about. I think, subhanAllah, this is what we do. have a little conversation with me. I feel like I'm part of the community. You've got to make them feel that you're part of the community. Allahu Akbar. As a result, because of our lack of inclusive, including them, and they want inclusion. They just want to feel that they're part of something, and they want to feel safe. They're living there. There were some restrictions placed on the road, but this is exactly what we started doing. Carry on saying hello to them out of the ordinary, giving a smile. The more Muslims did that, the easier our interaction with them was, the easier we're able to go to the masjid without having difficulty or concerns. And subhanAllah, remember this, just al-muamala, this interaction, this dealing on fundamentals of our deen. Just enhance it, let it be seen.
And when you reflect, you think that's a no-brainer. Like, why didn't we think
exactly.
of it?
But it's actually, you just got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to do it.
Okay.
Instead of me saying, I got to get to my salat on time, even if I park in her driveway, this elderly woman, because that always happens. Wallah, it happens. I'm not sugarcoating it, Yaqi. We mean very well, but we need to get to our salat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what about them? Subhanallah, if I had looked out for her a little bit more, things would have been easier over there. Something so simple like that, very easy for any Muslim to do, increases our pride about our identity and who we are. They're all watching us, everyone. As soon as we make a mistake, what happens?
Yep.
The Muslims. We do something good. What I say is avoid argumentation with each other. Just let go of it, ya akhi, as much as you can. As much as you can, let go of it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all our brothers and sisters for this sincerity and honesty. And I love them all. My final words is, every single member of our community is important. Every one of you, my brothers and sisters, are part of this growing community, and every single one of you is as important as anyone else. Please do not look down on yourselves. Please do not think that just because you haven't had, much of a religious life yourself, that you are no good. You are amazing, and without you we cannot be a community. We have to rely on you, inshallah, and I look forward to seeing more positiveness, as Sheikh said, in every single Muslim. Because wallahi al-azim, wallahi al-azim, wallahi al-azim, I love them with all my heart. And I want to say, because I have this opportunity, I went through an ordeal this year, as everybody knows, and I swear by Allah, every single member of the community that I can think of was there for me. The argumentative and the easygoing, the harsh, and every person. Allahu Akbar. I thank the community, and I can't thank them enough, subhanallah. Wallahi, I'm indebted to them. All the goodness and the empathy and the kindness that they had is very promising, subhanallah. That's my personal experience with them, and I love them fi sabilillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you.